Carolina BBQ Festival's 5th anniversary will be the Queen City's biggest barbecue party yet. 30 pitmasters, 3 big events, and it all gets started with the barbecue brunch, brisket and biscuits. Expert barbecue pitmasters team up with Charlotte's top chefs to create a curated food event in partnership with Savor Charlotte. Brisket and Biscuits, March 28th at Town Brewing in Charlotte. Reserve your tickets right now at CarolinaBBQFest.org. To discover other features in Savor Charlotte's March culinary adventure, visit the Eat and Drink menu at charlottesgotalot.com. And we know the host site for this year's barbecue brunch is no stranger to great barbecue. They have it there regularly. Lots of good stuff coming. But we're talking about the barbecue brunch and Town Brewing Company. And to do that, we're excited to have the Director of Operations from Town Brewing Company with us today, Brandon Stirewalt. Brandon, welcome to the Low and Slow Barbecue Show.
How you doing, brother?
Doing great. Before we get into this conversation, I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself. What do people need to know about Brandon Stirewalt?
Yeah, so I'm a native North Carolinian. I come from a long line. My family's been in North Carolina about 250 years. So I'm as ingrained in the state and culture of the state as much as any North Carolinian. You know, I'll stand on anybody's coffee table and tell them that too. But so because of that, we look for, through my family, we come from a long lineage of farmers. So we look at a lot of things, North Carolina agriculture. It's what really drew me into the brewing industry, was being able to run manufacturing, also still be involved in food and beverage, but tie in a lot of North Carolina agricultural products and to what we do and who we partner with. So that's a little background about me, and kind of what drew me to this industry.
That's an awesome kind of backstory there. And I look forward to kind of diving a little bit more into that as I know we talk more about Town Brewing Company and the stuff that you guys are doing there. That's really cool. But first we talk barbecue. What is on Brandon's ideal barbecue plate? As someone with such a deep, rich North Carolina heritage, what are you going to order for barbecue lunch or dinner?
Yeah, I mean, so, I'm one of those old school guys. A lot of it depends on if I know the place or not, right? If I don't know a place, kind of like for a brewery, I'm going to walk in and try the lightest lager you have, because I can really see there's not a lot you can hide in that. I think, if I'm walking into a new barbecue joint at the eastern part of the state that somebody tells me is just the best they've ever had, I'm going to walk in and get chopped sandwich, white slaw on that, and I want baked beans on the side. And I can probably tell you everything about the house that you need to know about it by how that meal goes.
Yeah, that's a great barometer to judge a lot of different things from. So let's talk about Town Brewing Company. Tell us a little bit about it and how you guys came to be.
Yeah, so we started, this will be our going on 8th year of operation now. And so we'll celebrate 8 years in September. Town was an old auto garage that got rehabbed. It was 4 guys that started it. One has since passed, but 4 guys originally started the brewery. They were home brewers. This was an old auto garage that they rehabbed, and it was kind of fun because they had been home brewing in a garage, and so they went from garage to garage is the big joke that we've always got. But just they were looking for somewhere that had a really good sense of community, and the Wesley Heights neighborhood here just outside of Uptown in Charlotte really had that. It had a very firm neighborhood boards and people that were involved and really wanted to see the neighborhood flourish without robbing its identity. A lot of times in Charlotte, people just come and tear down everything and build something new and kind of wash an identity out of a neighborhood. And this neighborhood has not done that. And so we wanted to be a part of that neighborhood. So, 8 years later, really about 9, 10 years later from the planning and inception from that, here we are. And so we've been going strong. We've won some national awards. We just won for the second time in 3 years the QCBF Dan Wade Trophy, which celebrates the best beer in Charlotte. So we've been doing a lot of good things, man, just really having fun with it, but trying to really put out a quality product as well.
Yeah, and when I visit townbrewing.com, you really see a lot of the feel that you guys have retained in the property. Definitely a cool looking spot in an old auto garage. You got the big garage doors that come up and down, so you kind of get a good feel for how you guys have retained sort of that original flavor of certainly of that site and the community as well. So now that I've kind of set that up, what can people expect when they visit Town Brewing Company?
Yeah, so we try to keep a really comprehensive menu board. We're doing some fun stuff. We've got try to check off something in a comprehensive style. So we try to keep like a wheat on, a sour on, a hazy IPA, a West Coast. We'll have a light lager, we'll have some sort of fruited beer, a stout. Really, anything that you're looking for, we try to keep something comprehensive on the board for you to come in and enjoy. And then outside of that, we're also running. We do run some small bites here as well. So you can come get dinner with us. It's more like pub fare, general American pub fare. We've got a really small kitchen, but we maximize what we can get out of that kitchen. Would love to have a smoker, but unfortunately, the way the building was constructed and where we were at wasn't something that we were able to install. But we do have some great fun with our food too. But then outside of what we make on site, we also offer a lot of things for people that we don't make on site, being it, wine, cider, and spirits. And so we try to carry in all of those avenues something that is locally made. So we do carry a North Carolina cider. We also carry 2 SKUs of North Carolina wine amongst a host of other wines. But we do have something in the category with North Carolina. And then I believe we are the only place in Charlotte, North Carolina, it is carrying exclusively North Carolina spirits. So pretty much all of we have a full bar. We can run, anything from gin to tequila, our whiskeys. We've got bourbons, all made in North Carolina. Most everything is within an hour to an hour and a half of the brewery. So you're really getting, no matter what you have with us, you're really getting a full immersion of the taste of the Carolinas here with us.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned this in your introduction there, and you've touched on it again here. But why is it so important for the business to provide those North Carolina products in addition to what you're doing? You don't have a mindset of competitive folks here, or why is it important to include that?
Yeah, so we preach buy local, and so I don't want to be hypocritical and then start buying Canadian or European malt. When I'm making beer, or if we're trying to pull in spirits, just supporting national brands when I could be supporting my brothers and sisters in arms here in the distilling industry. And so we really want to embrace all of that. I think a big thing for us in our beers is about 95% of the malt that we're running in our beer it's actually grown in North Carolina. I told you I'm a 9th generation North Carolinian. I'm also 9th generation Rowan County, North Carolinian. I'm very proud of that. And our grain is actually being grown in Rowan County. And so there's a malt house called Carolina Malt House, just right outside of Cleveland, North Carolina, right there in Rowan County. And they're getting all of their grain from 30 miles within the malt house. So we're using that in our product. And I think it's really important for the Carolinas to support agriculture, because I do think, in wine, they call it a terroir, right? When you can start to taste what the soil and what the conditions are into your food or beverage. And I really do think there is a specific terroir to North Carolina grown grain, North Carolina grown hogs, North Carolina spirits. And we really want to celebrate that. We want to make sure that we have a very distinct agricultural product when we're looking at national and even global competitions, and just so people can register the authenticity of who we are as Carolinians.
Very cool. I want to go back to something you talked about there and get back into the beer here quickly. What do you feel like your most popular beer is, and what do you think that you do best?
Yeah, so our most popular beer in the tap room is going to be our Spratz Lager. We named that after Thomas Spratz. He was the first settler of Mecklenburg County. It's an American light lager, so it is a porch pounder for sure. It's what the people are getting after on Saturdays. It's, a lot of times we've got some friends at a brewery called Divine Barrel in Charlotte. They named their light lager the lightest thing you have. because people will come into craft breweries on a Saturday and say, what's the lightest thing you have? Or can I get the lightest thing you have? So it is definitely a patio pounder. That beer, it also, light beer pairs well with about anything. So especially a good afternoon. But that's definitely our most popular in the tap room. Now, outside of the tap room, there are still a lot of people in Charlotte drinking hazy IPAs. So we have a beer called Hazy Behavior, and Hazy Behavior would be our outbound flagship. That's really the one we hang our hat on outside the doors.
Okay, so I go to the food menu here at townbrewing.com, and you mentioned you've got a tight kitchen, a full offering, though, wings and a lot of flatbread pizza. But the thing that immediately caught my eye is game day menu and game day dogs. That's what I'm talking about, Brandon. Y'all have got some legit lineup of hot dogs, and it's hard to beat a good game day hot dog with that light lager.
It is, man. I mean, you get a bucket of Sprats and a couple dogs, and I mean, you can butter my butt and call me a biscuit after that, man.
Great stuff there. So what do you guys feel like, economic climate varies from year to year and over, a period of close to a decade now. I'm sure you've seen a lot of things come and go. What do you feel like the biggest business challenge you guys are facing right now might be?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, our industry has seen, I don't want to say a bubble burst or a wave crash because it's still very viable. A lot of people use, and these are, just words that sometimes people will, can condemn an industry without understanding what's going on in it by saying things like saturated or oversaturation of market. Really the craft brewing industry saw a huge influx in about hyper-focus, in the past 15 years and really hyper-focused to the past 10 years. And right before COVID, we were kind of in a golden age there. And I think what happened is I don't know that we reached a saturated market necessarily. I think we reached a very mature market. I think people, love to write about breweries closing or breweries struggling in our industry. And look, most businesses in America don't make 5 years. We've got breweries in this city that are 15 years old. We're about to celebrate year 8. I would say that the strength of our industry is still very high and very prominent. It's just changed. The landscape has changed. The way our customer behaves has changed. But, in any consumer packaged good culture, that's going to have change in behavior probably every 3 to 5 years. You're going to see trends differ and things change. And I think we're just fighting for some market share a little bit. I think people have went to some of the flavored malt beverage or beyond beer, as we call it. You're seeing seltzers. We make a brand of hard teas. We actually manufacture a THC beverage here as well. And so you're starting to see a lot of these alternative beverages to what a lot of customers was traditionally a beer drinker, a wine drinker, a spirits drinker. I think there's a lot of gray area in between those now. And so I think we've just diluted a little bit what the market is. And a lot of that is just catering to the customer. If they ask for something, we've gotten to a point to where we make it. I think they've gotten spoiled a little bit on how many products we've put out in the market. But I think that's the biggest thing challenging. Our tap room is fantastic and still growing at a very high rate. And my staff works really hard for that. But throwing these events, as we kind of lead into this, that's one thing that we learned is, pre-COVID and back in that kind of gilded age of brewing, we definitely opened the doors and people came in because we had big spaces and people were excited to take the dog and the kids and grandma to a place they could drink for the first time, right? And I think we really had to shift focus to being very deliberate, throwing events and making sure that we have programming to invite people in now.
Yeah, and you mentioned that program, and we're going to talk a little bit about the barbecue brunch here in just a moment, but I want to talk about some of the other things that you mentioned. Barbecue, no stranger there to Town Brewing Company. I know you've got our buddy Garen and John G's coming in, Holden from Union Barbecue. Talk about some of the things that are on tap for coming up in the little bit of a time ahead, and then we'll get into the barbecue brunch.
Yeah, so I'm very fortunate in life. I work for a brewery, so I'm known as the beer guy to all my friends. and know some of the best beverage makers in this state and in the country for that matter, because I do believe we're making some of the best in the state. I also am very spoiled and fortunate to know Lewis and Holden and Garen and these guys that are making some of the best barbecue here again in this state. And I'll stand up on if they're making it in this state, it's the best barbecue in the damn world. So, I'm very fortunate. And with those friends, we like to throw a party, man. We like to get together. And we like to collaborate with putting our beer with their barbecue. And I think that's, the best mix that we can offer is how do we get them on site and use a huge space that we have as a brewery to be able to facilitate getting their product out there as well. So, we've got, obviously we're going to be talking about the barbecue brunch that we've got going, Carolina BBQ Festival. But also we've got a 420 Fest coming up. That we partner with Infinities in every year. It's a big smoke out theme this year. So we've got Holden with Union Barbecue out for that we're going to have a ton of fun with and let him really showcase what he's doing on that truck, man. I mean, it's phenomenal work that guy's getting off the smoker that he runs to put in that truck. And then we always have Garen out about twice a year. We usually do a spring and a fall with him. And we're having him out the week right before Memorial Day weekend. So I believe it's the 20-something. Sorry, I don't have it on a calendar here. Okay. It's whatever that Wednesday is, right before Memorial Day and Memorial Day weekend that we'll have Garen out. And so they're fantastic, man. Garen, we do a beer for Sweet and Lou's. We also do a beer for Lewis. So we're, making beer and putting their name on a label and really trying to have as much collaboration on those products as possible. So for a place that doesn't serve barbecue on a daily basis, I still want to be known as one of the best barbecue breweries in the state. And so inviting those guys out as much as I can really helps cross-pollinate what we're both doing.
That's a great way to get that title as best barbecue brewery in the state. People let you name there. And by the way, I've had that beer at Sweet Lou's. Very good. I enjoyed it very much sitting out there on the patio. And of course, we're talking with Brandon Stirewalt, Director of Operations at Town Brewing Company in Charlotte's Wesley Heights neighborhood. That's where the Carolina BBQ Festival barbecue brunch is happening Saturday, March 28th, this weekend. 6 stations featuring some of the top chefs in Charlotte and barbecue pitmasters from across North Carolina and beyond. Midwood Smokehouse's Matt Berry's going to be there, teamed up with Bojangles. They're making brisket, gravy, and biscuits. Oh, my goodness. Sweet Lou's, Louis Donald and Krispy Kreme are producing an egg and brisket on Krispy Kreme donut. He did this last year. I'm going to eat all I can when I get there. Southern Smokes Matt Register, Chef Chris Coleman from the Goodyear House. They're going to do blackened Carolina catfish, creamy grits. Fort Grove Barbecue is going to be there with Chef Kyle Johnson from Community Matters Cafe. Bacon burnt ends with a coriander sorghum pancake. All the details at carolinabbqfest.org. There's still a few tickets remaining. Get them there. Then join us Saturday, March 28th from 11 a.m. till 3 p.m. And while you're visiting carolinabbqfest.org, be sure to get your tickets for this year's festival. So as we talk about this year's festival and the food and beverage scene a little bit more with Brandon, where does Town Brewing fit into this really kind of blossoming and starting to get kind of booming food and beverage scene in the Queen City?
Yeah, so I've been having a lot of meetings with CRVA, our Charlotte Regional Visitors Authority, really talking about the things that attract people to Charlotte. And a lot of it is food and beverage. That is one of the biggest things that people are doing when they're in Charlotte. A lot of it is visiting friends or relatives. Charlotte is a huge town of, half the people in the Carolinas move to Charlotte for work, right? And so it's just a great excuse for people who might, live somewhere like, Columbia, South Carolina, and their big sister moved into the big city here in Charlotte, right? Or somebody that lives in Fayetteville and their uncle had moved to Charlotte and runs a business here, right? And so they're just coming in to visit. And what's the biggest thing when you come in to visit and you don't have a big fixture of what you're doing is let's go out and immerse ourselves in what food and beverage has to offer. And I will say Charlotte is we're a very boozy town. We definitely have a bar or a brewery or something on every corner, a brunch spot, whatever it is. which is fantastic. I love being a part of what that scene is growing and has to offer. But we're now with the Michelin Guide, coming into the Carolinas, and the fact that we saw Chef Sam get a star over here at Counter, which is, we're fortunate to have about a quarter mile down the road here on the west side. We're really starting to see our culinary scene fully blossom and fully grow out into what it is. And it's great, man. A lot of those chefs that you named and a lot of the pit masters that are coming out, I've seen, Chris Coleman's a good friend of mine, and I've seen the concepts and what he's done over the years here in Charlotte. And it's awesome to see what these guys are doing on the culinary side. We just really want to match what they're doing and be able to, offer libations and brew beer that can hold its own, right? And can win medals and can attract people coming in. And so I do think as people are visiting, breweries are a really good place. I don't want to say that, Ruth's Chris or Fleming's or any of those chains uptown, they have their place, and I value that they do offer that level of cuisine in Charlotte, North Carolina. But, if you're really wanting to show somebody what Charlotte looks like, I think if you bring them to Town Brewing on a John G's day, you're really blowing them out of the water, right? Because we'll have an artist on our stage as well playing. There's markets that we have, like with the 420 market, you'll see a lot of local vendors. We've actually, we've run a tattoo permit here that we can have folks come in and do on-site tattoos. And so if you really want to see what Charlotte looks like, pop into my place on one of those days. You're going to hear it. You're going to taste it. You're going to feel it. You're going to touch it. You're going to drink it. You're going to really see what this city has to offer.
Yeah, feel the pulse of the Queen City there at Town Brewing Company. Hey, I want to ask you here, Brandon, while I've got you on, you mentioned the Michelin Guide, Top Chef Carolinas, all this spotlight on the food and the culinary scene, and you guys pairing what you do with what they're doing. How do you feel like this attention is affecting Town Brewing Company and maybe the beverage industry?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's giving us a rise overall. I think that, at one point, people in this city had a bit of disdain for how much food and beverage was growing. I think that they wanted fixture in other industries and other areas. And that's frustrating for somebody who works in the food and beverage industry in a city that's growing so much. But I really think a lot of what these things have done is start to solidify and anchor the fact that, wow, this is good for our city. This is growing our city. This is creating more traffic for people to come in and see our city and potentially move here. So, a big thing for us in the beverage industry is, these places give us an area to showcase our products as well. So the more bars and restaurants that open and are doing well, the more draft lines that I can get. And so that's never a bad thing for me. But, I think the big thing that, I always try to show people is, I'm a poor kid born in the country. And, I've worked my way up to director of operations of a manufacturing brewing company and full service restaurant here. And so the upward mobility, I think that the food and beverage industry has to offer is something that I think people should celebrate big time. And I think, again, people are finally now, because of the accolades, because we're getting our flowers a little bit, if you will, I think people are finally starting to see that we're as much of a part of this city as anything.
Really cool perspective. And a big part of the city coming up soon is that barbecue brunch, brisket and biscuits. How did Town Brewing get hooked up? Sweet Lou and some of the team that are behind it, but how did you guys get your name in the hat to host it this year?
Man, I used to go bug Lewis and try to get some beer in his place back when I first got in the beer industry and just watch him tie sausages right when he opened. And so we got to be pals, man. And really from that, we just started talking about ways that we can pull bigger and bigger things off in this city, ways that we can support each other. And I've always tried to show up because, Lewis does a lot of work in this community to really make sure that barbecue is known not only in the eastern part of the state, but the Charlotte, North Carolina has some of the best barbecue to offer as well. And so, man, we got plugged in after that. We started serving the pre-party at Carolina BBQ Festival. Really had a lot of fun with that. Got to know a lot of the people on the Carolina BBQ Festival team. Started working with them, and again, started working with CRVA on possibilities for how we can lean into things and showcase larger formats for festivals. And, we've got a good spot here. We've got a good spot for a couple of reasons. One, because, I can't say enough about my team and how hard they work, but we've got a great spot geographically too. We're near uptown. We're close out proximity to the interstate. We just got a really, really functional location, if you will. And I've also got a good amount of space here because manufacturing facilities take a gratuitous amount of space. So we sit, just the building is 11,000 square foot. Wow. Only about 4,500, 5,000 of that is actual tap room. We've got about 7,000 square foot of manufacturing space. And so there's some areas we can flex into because of that. And there's also a large parking area that we can rope off and flex into and be able to utilize as part of the festival space. So all of this functionally just really started making sense. I want to tell you it's because I'm so good looking and easy to work with, but those are probably two of the least reasons that they chose us. But yeah, man, we really just started kind of watching it fall together and talking about how this could work. And it came together without a hitch, man. The teams working on this are really putting on a great show. And so I'm really excited to see it coming up here this weekend.
Have you got an idea for what the setup's going to be for it? You got 6 different food stations. I know there's going to be music and lots of stuff happening, but have you kind of planned out what it looks like in your brain?
Yeah, I'm actually looking at a map of it right here to how they've got it drawn out. Man, it looks fantastic how we're kind of making all this come together. We're going to have a lot of picnic tables sitting out where you can sit down and kind of enjoy some of this. The band will be on our stage that morning. The tap room will still be functional in and out. We'll have some beverage stations outside too. So there will be a private bar just for the barbecue brunch if you're ticketed into that. Man, there's going to be some stuff used in the manufacturing side. So right beside our brew house and some in front of the cellar. So there will be some really cool behind the curtain stuff that people get to see where we make our product and how that's made. And so, man, it's a full use of the space. I think it's going to be a booming day. I've talked to a lot of folks that have gotten tickets that have had this kind of on their map for a while. The amount of different cuisines at this too, I think is something noteworthy. I think that, people hear barbecue brunch and they're like, well, why would I do that? I could just, go to a barbecue spot, for the weekend, or I could, stop by and just order a huge tray of everything that somebody had to offer. And that's not the case at all. I mean, or we're looking at, oysters and smokers coming in and, like you said, the Krispy Kreme donut fixture and the heart attack on a bun that some of these things are, man. I mean, I can't wait for how different each food station is going to be, the way that these guys see and invent. And, this is an amalgamation of pitmaster chefs, like a lot of different culinary backgrounds. And so the full use of the space and how these guys are all jumping in it, I'm going to be as excited like a kid in a candy store as anybody. I've told my team there's got to be a ripcord moment where I don't have to work anymore so I can choke down a few beers and really enjoy it myself too.
Yeah, you better get there early because they plan well and it goes very quickly. Not the beer, but the food goes well. So maybe eat the food early and have the beer at the end. So here we are as we wrap it up. Brandon Stirewalt, the Director of Operations at Town Brewing Company. We've covered a lot here about the brewery and the brunch. Well, what's something we haven't covered that maybe you'd like your audience to know more about?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big thing about us that we really haven't touched on too much, and it's one of the biggest parts of who we are as Town Brewing Company is music. I think that's one of the biggest things that, when I was a young man in Charlotte, there were a lot of theaters, with Tremont and Amos's was a little bigger at the time. Neighborhood had went through some ebbs and flows. It's now getting good acts again, but we went through some times to where like a lot of these, again, corporate conglomerates of music had kind of taken over and shifted a narrative of what musicians were playing and how you got to see live music in Charlotte. And so because of that, I don't think we fostered for a time a great community of rising musicians. And I think that's changing a lot now. And so our stage, man, we try to run music 4 nights a week, every week. There's sometimes music 5 nights a week. I'm running every Friday and Saturday. You're guaranteed to see live music at Town Brewing Company. On Sundays, we run an open hip hop jazz session that some guys host for us that are phenomenal musicians. One of them was a UC Berkeley student. I mean, these guys are really doing something cool, and that really ties in a lot of the historical side of the West Side being a historical Black neighborhood over here, that we want to offer equity to everybody. So it's not just unilateral, one type of music around. So having that hip hop jazz session is one of the coolest things we do, to be honest. And then Monday nights, we run an open mic night. And once a month, we run a singer-songwriter session as well. And so all of that, man, we really want to support local arts and whatever that is. But music is a huge thing that we do here at Town as well.
Yeah, can't wait to see that coming up at the barbecue brunch. And there's a full schedule of events at townbrewing.com. You can check out the tap room events and, of course, follow them on Instagram and keep up with what's going on. So you can see some of this great live music and regular recurring events. And Brandon, as we just kind of wrap it up here, I can hear the passion in your voice, both about our home state of North Carolina, what you do in brewing and what you're doing as an event and program operator as a manufacturing facility. Brandon, what keeps your fire burning? Why do you keep doing it?
Well, I think a lot of it is I'm very fortunate. I grew up, again, 35 minutes up the road. I got the state flag tattooed on my back, man. I mean, this is home. My bones will be in this ground one day, and like all of my family before me. And so, the ability to be a guy that went to UNC Charlotte and came into the big city, and I left home, right? And went a whole 30 minutes down the road with my suitcase. But a guy that's still, where he's from, but gets to be in a major metropolitan area and still really tie in historical roots of my family with North Carolina agriculture. Man, I really feel like I'm honoring the past and serving the future at the same time. And so, that's something for me that most people in this country and in this world don't get an opportunity to do. So, I really count my blessings, man. There's no better state in the union and no better union in the world to me. And so I'm just very fortunate to be where I'm at. And so I want to take advantage of that as much as I can.
And that, my friends, is the final word from Town Brewing Company's Director of Operations, Brandon Stirewalt. Brandon, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, appreciate you having me and look forward to seeing you guys this weekend.
Yeah, really going to look forward to that and really enjoyed our conversation today. You've been listening to the Low and Slow Barbecue Show, sponsored by the Carolina BBQ Festival, April 17th and 18th. It's at Victoria Yards in Uptown Charlotte. Reserve your tickets for the Carolina BBQ Festival at carolinabbqfest.org, and be sure to use the promo code Low and Slow for your discount. To our audience, thank you for listening to the Low and Slow Barbecue Show. If you like what you hear, share our podcast with your food-loving friends, and please give us a 5-star rating on your favorite stream. You can visit lowslowbbqshow.com to subscribe to the podcast. You also find other podcast interviews with pitmasters, chefs, all involved in the barbecue brunch coming up this weekend, as well as the festival, as well as all across North Carolina. You'll also find our blog with barbecue news, festival, and event details. And if you sign up for our weekly newsletter, we'll deliver the latest Carolina barbecue news, food truck schedules, events, all that to your email inbox on Tuesdays. You can sign up at lowslowbbqshow.com. The Low and Slow Barbecue Show is proud to be part of the Mesh.tv network of podcasts. That's where Andrew Moose is the one who keeps us sounding good and makes sure our interviews get delivered to your ears and eyeballs, both here and on our YouTube channel. For the Low and Slow Barbecue Show, I'm Chigger Willard, reminding you that for the best barbecue and the best barbecue podcast, make it low and slow.